That's how we were doing it last time. I don't
We
know.
made it through the election season.
Yeah. Thank God.
That was a fucking marathon. That was a lot.
I mean, it's like we're over, but it's not over.
Yeah, it's...
I think we're gonna have a minute here still for shit to settle.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back. We haven't been here in a while. Life kind of got caught up with us.
That's right. That's right. It's been some time.
I don't know, probably a few
Lindsay.
weeks.
Yo, welcome to Liberty Tree.
We changed the space. We're gonna see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully audio is just as good and...
Or better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that any of that matters at this point.
No.
Because like I think we've had like a whole one viewer, so like
Right.
cool.
So welcome.
Welcome one viewer. But election's over,
Mm-hmm.
and we have had friends and family who have not appreciated the way that we voted, which we don't normally openly talk about it. I mean, we've kind of, I don't even know if on the other ones we talked about our beliefs on that, but I think I'm sure you figured it out. You could allude to it and kind of get a gist for it. Maybe.
We won. So...
We won. Oh my God. But we didn't vote fully partisan. Like, I would say moderate leaning because, I mean, at least I didn't vote like down the party line. I looked at the individual, and we've had friends or family ask why. Clearly, I'm missing something. Why? And right away, right off the bat, for me, to liberals that are asking why did America do this, I have to throw back in their face and say, do you actually care? Because so many times now they say, why did it happen? But as soon as you start to explain why, they start attacking you, and you go into this defense where I have to defend what I've done or what I feel. It's not really asking why and actually being curious and wanting to know. Like, it's actually more like, what have you done? And it's like, this isn't what this is.
Why do you think that is?
What do I think? What is?
Why do you think you even have to ask that question to begin with? It's kind of a redundant, not a redundant, but it's almost.
Are you asking why do liberals have to ask that question? Or what do you mean?
Why does any side have to be asked that question? Usually, if you're being approached from a different angle, it's just, here it is, right? Why is it you have to ask the question, do you really want to know? Or are you coming with something?
Because I feel like there's been so much suppression, and I think the left actually thinks that's a conspiracy theory. But why did, during COVID, we have to say things like the jab instead of saying the vaccine? Why did we have to say the Fauci ouchie? Why was there so much suppression on even talking about the vaccines, questioning it? And the vaccines aren't the only thing, but that's really, I feel like, where it started or became very obvious. People started to come up with words talking about it. Like, instead of saying, I don't like the left party, people started saying, let's go Brandon, right? There was the whole meme with the fuck Joe Biden, and it became, or bleep Joe Biden, but it became a meme that if you were conservative or even right-leaning at all, you began to speak in code, so to speak. Like, you almost had a different language to shift around what was being censored, because if you said certain things, it would not populate, it would get shut down, it'd be quite, I mean, I don't even know if us talking about this, I mean, not that we have any viewers anyways, but it could be censored.
So what does that have to do with how family responds, though?
So when you say, do you even want to know? I don't even think they want to know, because if they wanted to know, wouldn't they go to the sources and just look it up themselves and try to understand what was going on? But there's so much censorship that I think that they don't know that they don't know.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, without them understanding it, they could be coming with their own narrative.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a part of a larger story at play, and they're kind of getting a small slice of it. Not to say that it's not true to some degree, but they are only getting one aspect of it. And in doing so, there's a lot of already built-in frustrations that they would like to unleash somewhere.
You and I
or displace.
We've watched liberal news because I genuinely wanted to know why are people voting for Kamala? And I wanted to know. So I'd go on CNBC, CNN, The View, my God. And you listen to it, and you're not listening to like a chopped up version, you're listening to an episode. And there's parts of it that make sense. And I'm like, okay, I can see how that makes sense. But then they'll say something, or they'll quote something, or they'll use a clip, and it'll be something that I've seen on the right wing or even moderate, and it's complete and utter, the word I would use is propaganda, because they cut things. Like I don't know the exact example right now, but I know there have been instances, like, I know it's like Trump with like the abortion thing, that he'll say something like, I personally don't like it, and I would love to have a nationwide abortion ban, but, and he'll do the but part, and they cut it before that happens, where he goes, but I actually don't believe that that's my say, that's my personal opinion. And like, he's entitled to have a personal opinion. JD's even said this. They can have a personal opinion, but no, it's not right, because their opinion isn't everybody else's opinion. And saying, if it goes back to the states, let the states decide, which is the individuals really are deciding, or in more control of deciding. But the mainstream media, a lot of this, like, what do they call legacy media, will chop it and go, see, he's a tyrannical, he wants to do this. And it's like, no, he did say that. Yes, he did. But he said something afterwards where he explained more, and they're like cutting it up. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and don't quote us on this. Like, I don't think they even outspokenly said that.
Who?
The kind of the Joe Rogan interview we watched with Trump and then Vance.
No,
I don't think
know
they
that
went
Trump
that
said
far.
it, but I think JD says that he
may.
personally, he says he doesn't.
Might.
But he also goes in to say afterwards, but I think that the right wing leaves out families. Like, a lot of the reason why people don't like the whole abortion ban is because this is my personal belief, is I think a lot of people don't want to go into poverty. We don't have the resources. Like, having a baby is expensive. It's anywhere from like probably $6,000 to like $20,000 if you have complications. And whether you have insurance or not insurance, some of it's covered, some of it's not.
Sure.
Not to mention daycare, this, that, like, I think it's very expensive, and a lot of people don't have the family resources. They don't have just the resources fiscally.
Right.
Like, people don't have the resources, and the right wing is like, babies. And then it's like, oh, you're a single mom living in poverty now? Suck a dick. Like, they don't care about you once the baby's there.
I think the misconception also is that the left may think that the right doesn't understand that accidents happen. Mistakes happen. People can't plan all the time what can happen in an instance.
Yes, but I think to their point, it's like, if you're fucking around, you know the risks. Accident or not, you knew the risks. We're all adults. But I think that, like, a lot of adults, accident or not, when you're fucking around, I think there would be a different option available if people also didn't feel like they would be thrown into poverty because of it.
Sure.
And JD says in his interview on Rogan, like, I think we need to increase resources for families, like tax credits back, also make childcare more affordable.
Sure.
You know, we need resources where it's like, okay, once you have the baby, you're not just left out to dry. Because a lot of it is like pro-life. And then it's like, once you have the baby, fuck you, you're on your own now.
Right.
See you later.
How do you navigate creating something functional in today's world, right? Because that's just one aspect of having a family, is the first part.
Yeah. I mean, also housing. Where am I going to put them in an apartment? Like, a lot of people are like, I don't want to have it. Some people, they don't see any problem with that. But there's people who are like, I was raised in a house. I don't want to have to raise them in an apartment. Some people are like, well, it's okay, I want a kid. And I'm like, that's for them to decide. But not all of us want that option.
Daycare.
Diapers. All
food. Expendable income. Those kinds of things. I mean, it's good for an economy to have kids.
It's good for an economy.
To have families, and it's great for an economy.
But it's better for an economy to have single culture. 2 houses, 2 apartments.
Sure.
2 spending, 2 grocery bills.
Yeah, with kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's even better.
You know? But you made this point earlier, and I want to bring that while we're at this point right now, because in part, that is true short term, but think about this. Think about a family having a kid. Now, it's great for young families to have kids in separated homes, right? Most of the time they're in two
Fiscally.
apartments.
It's not
Fiscally.
great
But,
emotionally.
but what are the things that they're buying? Are they really generating a strong economy with all these little items that they now have to double down on? 2 hotel rooms when they're going to this place, 2 luggages, little things. What about a stable family having a home? They're going to purchase a home altogether. A new roof. You talk about the services economy, which is brought up many times during the Fed meetings because it's a huge part of the U.S. economy that a lot of people don't keep an eye on.
Yeah.
All about AI, tech, maybe sometimes automotive and manufacturing, but the services is a huge sector. Now, a family in a house that is getting work done, upgrading that room, kitchen remodel, landscaper, shit
Birthday
like that.
party, we got to get the house ready.
Is nobody talking about that kind of economy? Because where I see it, most of my friends don't have kids.
Yeah.
That economy is fucked 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Yeah.
Because
Once we change things.
Once these boomers are out of their house, I don't want to say it, I don't want to wish it, but they're getting old.
Yeah.
They are dying.
They are getting old.
What happens to that industry? Is it now just a flippers industry? Are they just going to get gobbled up by
most
investors?
people say, "Oh, BlackRock," and I'm like, BlackRock's fucking bleeding out, hand over fist.
There are tons of mom and shop pop investors.
They're actually the worst.
They are the worst, and they're the most prevalent.
How many of you guys know people from high school? They're like, I own 25 Airbnbs.
Not only is there quality
I'm
shit,
a multi-millionaire.
Multi-detonaire.
Detonaire.
Speculative.
Their debt is going to detonate any minute now.
It's been very speculative. Speculation. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is it really better? Yeah, China loves it, but for
China's real estate economy is imploding too.
Yeah, but that's a different point entirely. I'm just talking about these little products, baby stroller, little toy, like shit like
Cat
this.
trinketies.
Yeah, it's great for a little economy. Yes, blah 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 blah, blase blase. But when you talk about a larger economy with bigger things, you know what your roof is? 15 grand.
More.
15 grand.
Probably now is more.
Okay. You know how much new flooring is? Those types of bigger purchases do more, in my opinion, for an economy than little things that are actually leaving the country.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are not made here.
No.
So you can argue the point that actually separated homes in apartments or high occupancy living, maybe they're in a condo, is not actually that great for a further projected
Well. Here's the other argument to that, though. How you fancy you're working so much, you're so busy, you go to restaurants, you go out to eat. It's better for restaurant industry, though. Service industry.
Okay.
And that service industry.
Okay.
Because you go out to eat, you're too busy. If you have stable homes, you're going to be eating better, bad for the healthcare system. You're going to be eating at home, which is saving you money, not going out to eat. Somebody can help take turns, even if it's not, oh, mom stays home. Maybe it's dad makes dinner on Tuesdays, she makes dinner on Wednesdays. You pick up the kids here, you're sharing these responsibilities. That's a healthier demographic. That means the medical industry is losing out, the fucking restaurant industry is losing out. So, I mean, there's a trade-off in every scenario that actually, the single culture is quite conducive for a lot of parts of it. The porn industry would miss out. The fucking probably even Netflix. I'm sorry, but you're
right.
This is crap. Let's do game night with the kids.
Right.
Let's do something a little more wholesome.
Right. Are you gonna go to the movies? Maybe. Maybe not. Right.
I just think that the money will always go somewhere. It's just where is it going? And I think to bring it back to the original question is of why. The thing I have to say is not why did we vote. I think a lot of liberals need to look themselves in the mirror and ask, why did so many people leave?
Right.
Because you and I both voted. I mean, you voted 3 times liberal and I voted 2 times liberal. And now Republican. And the thing is, I'm not the first one to hear us say this. Like we've seen this. I mean, Joe Rogan was this way. Elon Musk was this way.
Sure.
Tulsi was this way. Vivek was this way. Like
these are leaders.
These are leaders
within the parties.
Within the party. And not to mention, like, just people I've met in the world have said this. And it's like, I don't think the question is, why did I vote this way? The question is, why did I leave? And the thing is, I think that liberals fail is to look themselves in the mirror, and they also say they want to know, but they don't want to know because they don't want to look at themselves and say, what have we done? What did we do?
Putting myself back in the sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Putting myself back in the shoes of when I was very democratic, my mentality was I'm very educated, more educated than most Americans.
Oh, elitist. And
I have this deeper understanding, and I can do no wrong, and will
I obviously know better.
Holier than thou kind of thing, like rules for thee but not for me, because they don't necessarily hold themselves to the same standard of, and I don't want to bash them, but it was like, why are they bashing my candidate? I don't see my candidate doing that, but there is clear footage of it. You just agree with it when you see it.
Yeah.
You agree with it when you see it. And you don't necessarily, it goes back and forth. You don't necessarily want to look, like you said, yourself in the mirror and say, okay, maybe there is more dirt on this party than I want to accept and admit. Yeah. And maybe actually there is quite a bit wrong going on.
Well, like you said to your sister, you said, I didn't want to elect a saint. The guy's a felon. If you can even call him that, because I mean that's a whole other spiel, weaponizing the DOJ. But people are like, he's not perfect, but we're not electing him to be Jesus. We're not electing him to be a pastor. Right. We're not electing him to be anything other than somebody that we believe is going to lead us into peace, prosperity, and safety.
And to one of your very high points, clarity in terms of the First Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, the disinformation. I think he wants to dismantle all of this. It's ironic that they keep claiming disinformation, but the truth is a lot of them are the ones censoring it and manipulating it. So I'm like, I feel like the left has been doing a lot of projection. It's very crazy. And I'm like, maybe you guys need to look in the freaking mirror.
I think at the end of the day, I heard this once and it really resonated. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has left us behind.
Yeah.
And when I listen to some of the things and some of the interviews on CNBC, when they talk about how the price of eggs is a very minor, trivial, variable that we don't necessarily need to be worrying about as a nation. It makes
trans people.
It makes me feel very, very alienated.
Well, no, but then they'll go on to say because trans people this.
Sure.
Which I'm like, I'm not saying bad to trans people, but they're a very small portion of the population.
Sure.
And there's a large portion of the population that's like, no, eggs are expensive.
Right.
They're belittling you. They're patronizing you.
Yes. And it makes me feel like, okay, I'm
also,
underperforming, obviously.
Even if you went to college, I don't care if you went to a good school or not. I mean, I went to a good school, but even my friends who I went to school with now look at me like, oh, you're a hillbilly idiot.
Right.
And I'm like, I still went to the same fucking school as you. I still graduated the same way you guys did, but now I'm a fucking idiot just because of who I'm voting for. Apparently. Maybe you're a fucking idiot because you can't see that people can change and you're actually closed-minded. The fact that you can't even open your mind to be like, hey, that was my friend. Why have their opinions changed?
Sure.
Because I know why your opinions are what they are.
Right.
I was them. I was that.
Not much has really changed within the party over the last 20 years. Therein lies kind of the problem. And some of the internal issues have only exacerbated.
Yeah.
The question is, why have so many people left? Why have so many people moved away?
Well,
because the right has their own issues. Really, separation of church and state, pushing the Bible onto legislation is a lot of internal strife.
We know that. Yeah. But here's the other thing. A lot of those people, and I do mean a lot, like majority of those people are old that are that way. There is still some young, very religious people, but I think there's a lot of now like moderate Republicans that are like, dude, put whatever you want in your ass.
Right.
I don't care, just don't put it on me.
Right.
But the thing is, if I said that as a moderate liberal, you're a bigot, you're a dumbass, you're fucking stupid, you're ignorant, you're racist. Somehow I'm racist because I don't want things shoved down my throat about my ass. Like, that's weird. But hey, I mean, I'm illiterate, so what do I know?
You get it.
Like,
you get it.
And I think they've so in science, like I remember in like quantum mechanics, like I had this moment where it's like you get into these theories that don't make any fucking sense. Like it's like you can know this, but you can know this, and you can't know this and this. But and you get to this point where I remember the professor was like, and this is where a lot of people become religious because it's so almost spiritual, because it's such a lot of bullshit that it's like, yeah, the math works out to be what it works out to be, but you almost have to be like a leap of faith to believe it and be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And when I realized that most of my upper division chem professors were all heavily religious, it's really weird because with this whole agenda, there's a level of faith that you have to go, well, I don't know that. I've never experienced that. You've never experienced it. But I have to take your word. I have to have faith that there's people that really feel this way. I have to have faith that it's like, it is a spirituality almost. It's like,
you look at some of the best, brightest minds, you know, Stephen Hawking, Einstein, von Braun, all reference God.
Yeah.
We had help. Like, where are they getting, they just clearly missed it on that side though. They've done so much in terms of mathematics and engineering and quantum science.
But look, I'm not saying it needs to be back in the schools, but I'm just saying in some way it is almost becoming religious.
Well, while we're on this point, this is great. And I know we're kind of getting done on time, but I felt as a liberal almost shameful to have any national pride.
Oh, yeah.
And
if you said you're proud to be American,
right.
Fuck you.
And I almost actually forgot, why did we take the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools? You know, why can't we all rally under one nation together? Is that too,
fascist, apparently.
Fascist.
Fascist.
We all founded under one nation, under one constitution. As far as I know, everybody up in Congress
you sound fascist,
still rallies under one constitution.
You sound fascist.
And you know, and this is really interesting. At work, I had a very liberal friend that I work with, and he goes, you know, I really, really wish that we could all just agree under one party. Not understanding really what, and that's what I think. I think the left has this mentality of the right is so wrong that we would be better without them. We don't want them,
well,
and we would be better
Trump. They literally
without
said
them.
that.
So what does that feel? And the assassination attempt, look, yeah, he had a background of being Republican, and it's very confusing, and we don't have time to get into that.
No, we don't have time to get into that.
But I corrected him. I said, no, maybe 3 or 4 parties.
More.
But whenever I feel like somebody wants to have one party, you're looking at China.
Well, and again, I've never lived in China, so I don't know. I'm not going to completely bash it. I don't know if it's completely bad over there. But I'm just saying, one party, how does that work if you disagree?
Right.
You're fucked. You have no other options.
Right.
Like, it's already hard enough in America when you have 2 parties trying to get a third party in.
Right.
How are you going to, if you got 1 party, get 2 parties? Like, that's horrible.
But it's the can do no wrong.
I know. They think that they're the best.
And attitude where it's like, obviously we're so educated, we're going to make the right decision for America because we know. We just know. And everybody else doesn't know what's best for them, but we do.
That's ironic because I'm like, again, I think that they need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, and I think they immediately start throwing daggers. You're racist, you're a bigot, you're da-da. And it's ironic too because I've met a lot of people that are of minority, and I say that with quotes because in certain places, they're not minorities and other ethnicities are minorities. So it's kind of in quotes because it's like, that's kind of subjective unless you're talking about it just from like a general how it's been thing, but like if you're talking about it from like a little statistic point, it's not even true in some areas anymore. But I've met people, black people that are African American. I mean, we went to go vote. I was wearing my camo jacket, and you're like, Lindsay, don't talk to anybody. Da, da, da. Like you're gonna cause a scene because we're voting in downtown in a liberal city. Early voting, and we're in a liberal city. And he's like, don't talk to anybody. I'm like, what if I make friends? And he's like, yeah, fucking right. Some older gentleman, African American. I said, he's conservative. And he's like, no, he's not. I'm like, yes, he is. And he's got on his fucking conservative jacket, and I'm looking at the brands he's wearing, and all of a sudden he starts shooting the shit with us, and he's like, well, see, I just worried about the youth, and you guys are giving me hope. And I'm like, dude.
He was more conservative than we are.
I know.
He was like quoting a Bible.
I know. And that's the thing. I'm like, there is this narrative that only white people can be conservative, and I'm like, well, where's that narrative come from? The left. Right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, actually, most migrants, when they come from other countries, they either come from a country that has conservative values, and I'm talking about values, not Republican, conservative values,
Mm-hmm.
or they're coming from a country that they're actually fleeing tyranny and they want conservative values because
Right.
they want those liberties that they
Right.
did not have.
Right.
So they want conservative values. Actually, a lot of migrants have conservative values, unless you're bribing them to vote for you to come here.
Right.
And only a few years later, once they're here and they get citizenship, I'm sure they'll flip on them anyways.
Sure. Sure.
So,
Well, as a sum up,
sorry, I kind of took the last
no, that's great. That's great. I mean, ultimately, how do you feel about the elections? What are your concerns? You know,
I mean, we didn't answer why, other than I think that liberals need to look at the mirror.
I think it was more of a polarization away from a party for reasons that I think do your own homework.
Yes, but
You
I will
know?
say this. You said a point, and I think it's actually very true, because just reading comments on a lot of people who voted for Trump, I think a lot of people voted with their wallet. And I think a lot of people, it's not that people want inflation to stop, or I think they're calling it that, but what they really mean is they want deflation. And personally, I don't think the government, whether it be the Fed, the Treasury, or anybody, Trump or the Biden administration, either party wants deflation. Deflation is actually where the prices come down. Inflation, or disinflation as they've been saying, is where inflation gets smaller, but it's still going up every year. So instead
She's
of
talking inflation, obviously prices going up. Disinflation
they're going up but slower.
but slower.
So instead of 10% a
Disinflation
year,
is
it's
the
2% a
slowing
year.
the rate. And if you listen to the Fed, he always talks about slowing the rate of inflation.
He doesn't want
He
inflation
never
to ever go
talks
away.
about
He still wants it.
disinflation or
Deflation.
deflation.
And so I think what a lot
Very,
of
very tricky verbiage.
it is tricky verbiage.
It has to be followed.
And a lot of Americans don't, I feel like a lot of them don't pick up on that. They say, I want inflation to stop, and thinking that means deflation. Like
Right.
they think, oh, the opposite of that.
Right.
No, they want disinflation. The Fed wants to take 2% at minimum of your money every year. Every year. And they
Forever
want,
and ever.
Forever and ever. They want to fucking take 2% of your money. If you save, put it in a bank, put it under your couch, put it under where the fuck you want. 2% needs to be eroded every year. That is how they stay in power.
As part of their congressional mandate.
Yeah.
As part of the
And
mandate.
a lot of Americans want deflation, and I
Mm-hmm.
think with tariffs and reining in the government and pulling it back,
And the border.
and the border,
And the border.
because again, you have a lot less bargaining power with more people,
Correct.
supply and demand. And I think a lot of people are voting with their pocketbooks. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a culmination of a party that has gone too far
Mm-hmm.
with policies that people find that they are almost in another reality. They're
I mean,
floating
look
in another
at,
plane.
Look at Hollywood. Look at Target. You go woke, you're going broke in a lot of ways. And
And I don't mean that to be mean. I'm like, look, we have gay friends, and I'm like, to be honest, I've seen a lot of, there's a lesbian lady I saw online. She goes, I'm a dyke, but you know what? This shit, like, she goes, a lot of you guys are complaining and bitching that you guys don't have equality. She goes, what can I not do that anybody else can do? I can get married, I can do this. And she names everything. And then she goes, what you fuckers want is equity.
right.
And it's with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That is different than equality.
So-
equity is for real estate. What are you going to build? Equity. Are you building equality in real estate? No, you're building equity.
Yeah.
The argument is, yeah, because they've been suppressed so many years to compensate, we need to be pushed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that perpetuates a cycle of them constantly just being pushed up.
Yeah.
It will never come
Be
back
equal.
to equality.
No.
If that's how you want to start. How you start relationships is how they always will perpetuate and continue.
Absolutely.
That is how it goes.
Well, I mean, we didn't start with equality, so maybe it just means we never can get there.
Well, I think the constant banner should have always be equality, and you just keep it that way. You keep what you want.
But that's the point, is a lot of the left thinks equality is equity. Equity is equality.
It's
They don't
not.
understand the difference. It's
It's
like
not.
people confuse sympathy and empathy. Like, they're not the same thing. They're
Sure.
actually quite different. And so I think a huge part of this is the left agenda has gone very far into this equity agenda. And a lot of America, and a lot of people would say, I mean, I've seen women who are like, if you are a black woman or a Latin woman and you are going to date or marry a white man, I'm coming after you.
Wow.
You like, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're racist.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. What do you mean? Shouldn't
like,
you love who you love? What's the whole thing about
right.
equality? That's not equality anymore.
Wouldn't that just be a poster child of segregation?
I mean, yeah.
Isn't that...
But again, my point is they have gone too far. It's too extreme. And most of America is like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, people are like, that's crazy. What are my options? They look over here and they're going, okay, well, they're talking about economic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My wallet hurts.
Right.
Let's fucking do this.
Right.
Is he perfect? No.
Right.
That's a whack job, though. Not perfect is better than a whack job.
Right.
That's that's my take on it. I don't know.
Well, I think we need to wrap this one up, and we're going to do another one. And we've been watching a little bit of the Daily Wire. I don't know if you guys have, but I think there's a ton to unpack there. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment below what you think, and we will see you guys on the next one.